My name is Dom Douglas, and I am back-to-back XWW Commentator of the Year. With that comes some responsibilities, but also a lot of fun and excitement, and I'm never ashamed to look like a complete fool. Speaking of that, I love playing Magic the Gathering, so much so that I kind of think I play it a little bit too much, and I have some opinions. So now, ExtremeTVOnline.com and XWW Wrestling on YouTube presents my podcast where I talk about Magic the Gathering. It's the Goblin Grenade Podcast. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, that is right. The Goblin Grenade Podcast. Another episode. My name is Dom Douglas, the back-to-back commentator of the year for Extreme World Wrestling for Max Heroes and Villains YouTube channel now, where this is our home for our Magic the Gathering podcast, the Goblin Grenade. That is right. And this week's episode is Magic the Gathering related. Not last week where it was Diablo 4 and a couple other things. Nope, this week we are actually talking about Magic the Gathering. And it's going to seem like it's disjointed at first, but it's going to web its way around a couple of issues that there's a spider webbing going on here, if you will. So we're going to get to it. The first bit of news, Magic the Gathering came out that through one of the former, I think, Rules Committee members, or at least a CAG member, either the Commander Rules Committee or the Commander Advisory Group. So yeah, a bit of a correction. Gavin Duggan, he was the one who didn't want to be part of the new committee. He was one of the two OG Rules Committee members left over from the Rules Committee when it started 20 years ago almost. Said that he is not going to be part of the new group because of the contract that they require you to sign. Technically speaking, the forgot what it was called, the non-disparity clause. The NDC, a non-disparity clause. But it's a forever. Once you become a member of this new Commander, what are they calling it? Commander format panel, you can no longer talk bad about Wizards of the Coast or Magic the Gathering or anything they do. The legalese part of this is in perpetuity. And legally that means forever. And if you become a member of this new advisory group, you have basically Terry Funked yourself into never being able to talk bad about Wizards of the Coast ever again, even if you have a different opinion. What do I mean by Terry Funk? Forever, forever, forever. And you will not be able to basically say anything ill of Wizards of the Coast. This was a pretty big revelation and a pretty damning thing to have come out. That your brand new, fresh out the box take on Commander is already causing some ill will within the community already. And most of us called that this shenanigans was going to happen. And it didn't take Wizards of the Coast that long to do it. The problem is you cannot say, you have to agree with whatever Wizards is putting out. Wizards could put out a 0 casting cost card that basically says win the game immediately. And you can't say that this is a very bad card for the format. You can't disagree. You can't say this card is bad. This was a mistake by Wizards of the Coast. You are no longer allowed to say that because non-disparity clause. You can't talk ill about. I could understand if it was for the duration of your time in the new group, but it's not. The way the legal works and the legalese works in this clause is it is a forever clause. But you can't talk bad about Wizards of the Coast anymore. So my general opinion is about this. It is a bad idea to have these things existing. Some corporate stooge decided that this was the right thing because if you dare talk bad about Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro stocks are going to go drop a penny or two and people are going to lose their livelihoods because of it. Because somebody on the new committee disagrees with the new broken card that they were told not to produce, but yet we still produce because we know what's best for the game. Or if you just don't like the direction certain things are going in. Like if you don't like the direction that, say, Magic Cons are going in, you're not allowed to talk about that anymore. So I think, as I said, this is my stance on it. Nobody's 100% correct. Nobody makes 100% of the right moves. I don't care who you are. Mistakes are always made, but you should be allowed to disagree and dislike and have a differing opinion of those mistakes, and more specifically, to be able to call out the people who made those mistakes. Sometimes people need to learn a hard lesson or two. Just ask the former rules committee. I know that was a very bad shot to take. They kind of accidentally led themselves down this. Mistakes were made. There was too many bans too fast after so much inactivity. I'm allowed to say that. I'm allowed to disagree with that. I'm also allowed to disagree with the way certain people disagreed with the rules committee. The death threats and the doxing and the vitriol and the hatred, that is not cool. That's not cool at all. That is 1,000% the wrong move. How I said it, kind of the right move, and even then it's probably the wrong move. I shouldn't have even said the rules committee, but it was the first thing that went into my head. That being said, if you take this agreement, you can't even disagree with Wizards of the Coast anymore, and that's a problem. I couldn't even say that if I took the agreement. That's why I'm never going to do any of these things. Basically, hashtag never going to get sponsored is the name of this podcast, or should be the name of this podcast. But if it ever does happen, I will let you know who sponsored us. And trust me, it's probably going to be nobody. I did a podcast, the last one before we switched channels, where I cursed a lot. And it's kind of goes back into the rules committee thing of how I felt. It was a raw, passionate thing. It was definitely hit a nerve with me on when the rules committee had to give up Commander to Wizards of the Coast and Papa Hasbro, and that hurt a lot, and I was definitely raw in emotion. And did I say some words that I shouldn't have said? Yeah, a lot of bad, naughty words. 170 of one particular word was said in just that episode alone. Will I go and backpedal on that opinion? No, I'm not like certain people that we'll get to later. The Pro Tour has been announced for 2025. Next year's Pro Tours, Magic Cons, and whatever they're called, have been announced. They are all in America. It is 3 of them next year, as opposed to 4. We have Chicago, Las Vegas, and Atlanta. Those are it. So, basically, we're recognizing that we don't care about the rest of the world. Wizards of the Coast, even though this game is global, and the stats and the Hall of Fame can prove it, and Amsterdam was a great Magic Con, apparently. Barcelona, none of the normal international spots have been hit or will be hit. I mean, it's all America at this point. And the only thing I could think of why this is happening, I think it's 2 standard and 1 pioneer, or 1 modern, or a modern and 2 standard events. Either way, no formats have been announced. It's only been rumored that it'll be 2 standard and 1 modern. And also, the World Championships location has not been announced yet either, as of this podcast recording and me doing this addendum to the podcast. The only thing I can think of about this particular thing, and reason why it happened, is it's got to be some penny pincher at Hasbro. I'm just checking to see if I'm still in frame. Yeah, it's some penny pincher at Hasbro that basically has said, we want to save a couple extra dollars here, so let's just book everything in America. That's the only thing I can think of, and it's a disgrace. It's a bad move on Wizards of the Coast, especially with the Marvel set coming out next year too. That you just kind of said we don't care where the Pro Tour is at for the rest of the world. Even SCG cons, you could definitely go to them, but SCG Con, Star City Games, SCG, cons, Star City Games, they're based in the Southeast. They're based in Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. It's okay for them to not go international. But the company that created the game has basically said, we're keeping it at home. And this just goes back to my last point. If I had been part of this committee or whatever, the new commander advisory, whatever's, I wouldn't be allowed to say the words that I just said. So freedom defined is freedom denied. That's an important life lesson by Dom Douglas on a podcast about Magic the Gathering. My biggest take on that is I disagree with it. I definitely do not like the direction that the next year's conventions are going and the Pro Tours. And hopefully they correct. Hopefully they add an extra one, but I doubt it. I really, really doubt it. You're talking about a company that had one of the worst visually looking programs and one of the worst online presences for as big of a company as they were, and they were right down the street from Microsoft. It's not like right down the street. There's a little bit of distance, but they are closer to Microsoft's offices than I am. The actual distance, I looked it up, is about 20 miles between the town that the Wizards of the Coast offices are in and have been in since the late 90s to Microsoft's offices in Redmond, Washington. 20 minutes away. And yet this company just couldn't even been bothered to reach out to try to get their online presence a little better or even ask advice. This is the type of company that Hasbro bought. But yet this is the type of company that it's still remained when it comes to things like this. Marvel and Magic has finally announced some of the things. The Secret Lair is already setting the world on fire. Apparently, all the cards are super cool and super messed up. Unfortunately, it's a secret lair. I do not partake in secret lairs. I will never buy a secret lair. I have passed on secret lairs that should have been right up my alley because I do not agree with the concept and the frequency of the secret lairs. That being said, it's a good opening salvo. You have Wolverine, Captain America, Storm, Iron Man, and Black Panther. I think that is the perfect lineup for the Secret Lair, if I got those right, to the initial offering for this joint venture between Marvel and Magic the Gathering. Universes Beyond next year. They did also announce it's a Spider-Man themed set. They also said it's not a standard set. It's going to be one of those Modern Horizons, kind of like Lord of the Rings, where it's legal in all formats except for Standard and Pioneer, basically from Modern and before that. And there's even some talk that it might not even be Modern legal. It could only be Legacy, Vintage, Commander legal, which would be insane to think about. But I think it's going to be in Modern because that'll at least have a little bit more appeal in buying the cards, even though everybody and their mother and even people that aren't born yet are going to be buying these cards and buying the sets. And honestly, with the Spider-Man set, that is honestly a perfect first set for this. And I've been down on the Marvel product. I've not been a fan of it at all, considering Final Fantasy is also my big jam, and I am not down for that set either. But Spider-Man's villains, there's plenty of them, plenty of unique ones, plenty of unique mechanics if you wrap your brain around them, between Doc Ock and Spider-Man, the multiple versions of these characters as well. Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Miles Morales, Gwenpool, Spider-Pool, so many different superheroes and villains are in Spider-Man, and I'm not too familiar with Spider-Man, so don't rake me over the coals if I get a villain or two wrong. Rhino, the Sinister Six, there's Electro. I know they're all part of the Sinister Six. That's the only thing I could think of, but you get what I mean. It's the villains gallery, the rogues gallery of Spider-Man, if you will. That's the words I was looking for. Actually tailor-made for Magic the Gathering. Leyline of Resonance might have a ban coming up, but not in the format that you think. It might be only Magic the Gathering Arena, and it might only be best of one standard. What happens is there's an easy turn 2 kill in best of one, and in standard right now, involving Leyline of Resonance. Best of one, nobody really wants to get killed in the second turn without even being able to have a response to what's happened to them. That's why I can see it being banned in best of one. It's not the first time. It wouldn't be the first time that Wizards of the Coast have banned a card in standard best of one in Arena. But right now in the current standard, there are not many options available to deal with this turn 2 combo. Unless you have a cut down and you play it immediately, or an edict or something along the lines that makes your opponent you're able to kill one of their creatures, have a fight spell, if you will, in green. The nearest ones are turn 2 and you have to be on the play first, and there's not many good options on removal of this turn 2 combo. So Leyline of Resonance might get banned in best of one. Now, if you play Arena best of ones and this card does get banned, if memory serves me correctly, you do not get refunded wild cards for this. In Arena, if they ban your card in any format, you will get a refund of wild cards to compensate for that. But when it comes to best of one only, you do not get a refund on those cards. So be careful if Leyline of Resonance, you might make a build list or whatever, and you play best of one, be careful. It might be getting banned soon. Don't take my word on it, though.
Oh boy, by the time I got around to editing this episode, they announced that on October 22nd, 2024, on the Ban and Restricted announcement, on Arena, Leyline of Resonance is banned in MTG Arena Standard Best of One Constructed. It is not banned in Traditional Standard, which is Best of Three, or limited formats or special formats. Leyline of Resonance is suspended in MTG Arena Alchemy Best of One and Best of Three formats, pending a rebalance. What suspended is in Arena, they suspend the card. It is not banned yet. They are looking at it, and they may alter the card for Alchemy or rebuff in Alchemy. This only happens in MTG Arena Alchemy format. They love fast, fun Magic. This card was way too fast, way too furious, if you will. Back in 2019, they made a similar targeted adjustment with Nexus of Fate for similar reasons. Nexus of Fate was I just have the flashbacks to that card, which was an unfun play loop of not winning at all. You couldn't win. You basically forced your opponent to concede. This was before the game timers as well. But Nexus of Fate decks caused the timer to exist in Magic the Gathering Arena. It was problematic. The timing is the reason why they've been keeping an eye on it. Does the data support Leyline disrupting what they consider normal play? Yes. If it is yes, is it happening often enough to warrant? It was. It was going above and beyond for both of those answers. So yes, that is why the card is banned in Arena, Best of One Standard, and suspended in Alchemy. Players who had Leyline of Resonance as part of their collections prior to this ban implementation will receive rare wildcards equal to the number of Leyline of Resonances in their collections. This is because it is not just being banned in Best of One Standard only. It was hit and suspended in multiple formats.
Diablo 4 news, we're going to break it up really quick. Really good, but also kind of not. I've had a blast playing it, but it's definitely starting to remind me of Diablo 3 with the damage numbers and the grind, and yeah. We'll see how I feel next week's podcast. Speaking of which, this Friday, October 25th, not only will I be at XWW for Halloween Massacre, but I will also hopefully try to get a few games of Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And yes, that's right, I am addicted to Call of Duty again. Not so much addicted, but I kind of got suckered in because I have Game Pass, and Modern Warfare 3 was available for free, and some short time later, after I finally started playing Modern Warfare 3 again, the Black Ops 6 beta became available. I was like, let me play it. I'll get owned. I will get wrecked. I will get totally embarrassed. It didn't happen. I actually can hold my own still, which surprises me because I haven't played any Call of Duty since Black Ops 4, which has been a good 7 years, one hip replacement, and a divorce ago. So it's been a hot minute since I've played Call of Duty, and yet here I am still actually being halfway decent at it. It doesn't hurt that it's free on Game Pass as well. But there's a couple modes in Modern Warfare 3 right now. There's Modern Warfare 3 campaign and single player. There's Zombies mode, which is it's its own separate game. So there's the Modern Warfare 3 campaign and multiplayer. That's its own game. Then Modern Warfare 3 Zombies mode is an open world zombie kind of, you go around completing missions and whatnot. That's its own game mode. Then there's Warzone, which is their battle royale, which if you don't know what that is, I might just say it's a Fortnite clone, even though PUBG was the first of that, but Fortnite is definitely the progenitor, not the progenitor, but the one that made it the genre explode. So that's their version of Fortnite. Warzone, they use an anti-cheat called Ricochet. Ricochet anti-cheated got punked by the actual people it's going up against. Yes, that's right. The Modern Warfare cheaters have actually been able to hack into Ricochet and ban people for no reason. And it's permabans too. The only reason why I'm covering this is because I'll be playing it next week, and I'm going to be talking about I'll be playing it this week, and I'll be talking a little bit about it next week. Not Warzone, but Black Ops 6. So the hackers have managed to hack into Ricochet and basically at the drop of a hat ban anybody. They banned a couple of prominent streamers and YouTubers, and after a couple days they were unbanned along with hundreds of other people apparently. And it was like one of the statements that Activision Blizzard made. It was like, yes, we've discovered that there was a exploit in Ricochet, and we fixed it. So people who've been banned have been unbanned. By the way, Black Ops 6 comes out October 25th. Pre-order today. They say the more important statement so low, and the statement that everybody's going to pay attention to very, very loud. But the more important one was said really, really low. And it was almost as if they didn't say anything at all. So I discovered Streamer Plus mode that streamers get. You have to, get in contact with Activision, be like, hey, I'm a streamer, or I have an online presence. Here's my info. And they just kind of flick a switch on the back end. And the back end is basically hiding your name. So I'm guessing if you see somebody in your playlist and it's an Anon, they might have an online presence. I've seen a lot of Anons lately. And also, you can report people for cheating, and if you hit a certain threshold, you'll immediately get shadow banned, sent off to a separate little server where you play with other people that may or may not have been shadow banned, and until they can look into you and see if you are actually cheating. What the Stream Plus mode does is it increases the amount significantly of reports needed to get shadow banned, and it's a good thing. I actually agree with this. If you have an online presence, if you're on Twitch or YouTube or other streaming platforms, you will have a certain percentage of people that watch you that are haters, that are going to want to mess with you. So I totally understand that. But that's how they that's how the hackers somewhat sort of got into. It's a gross under explaining what happened, but they basically used that little mode to use the exploit to be able to ban people. So I don't know whether to be mad, happy, or but I kind of find it hilarious, and I hope it gets fixed before Black Ops 6 comes out in a couple days, because I have a sneaky feeling there ain't going to be many updates for Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone. And when that happens, that's when the cheats really get bad. I've experienced it before when the game stops getting supported. It happened with me in Black Ops 4. When that stopped getting supported, it got really hard to play that game. So they're kind of forcing you, they're forcing you to play the newest game because they're not supporting the old game anymore. I get that, but it's going to be hard for players. That hopefully they have a fix before Black Ops 6 comes out. And now for the main point of this episode. They have announced the new Commander format panel today, October 22nd. Gavin Verhey wrote the column. They're forming the Commander format panel. It is 17 individuals. We'll get into them in a bit. But basically, I say but is basically a lot, and that's what it is. Honest truth, it's what Wizards want. It's what Wizards thinks you want to hear. They are going to listen to the Commander format panel. They will get to see cards in development in advance and give input on those cards. The R&D department in Wizards of the Coast still holds final say. So no matter what, even if they do decide to print that 0 mana costing card that says win the game, and the Commander format panel does say, hey, this is a really bad idea. I'm talking about you, Jeweled Lotus. This is a Jeweled Lotus thing where many people told Wizards of the Coast this was a bad idea. Don't print this. And they still did it anyway. They're still going to do it. They have final say. This is I hate to say it like this, but this panel is fan service, and not that type of fan service, you pervert. Get your head out of the gutter. This is fan service in a way that I'm going to shake your hand, I'm going to kiss your babies, but at the end of the day, my hand is in your back pocket stealing your wallet. The people that are consisting of the 17-person panel, it's 17, Gavin's their boss, are going to be that friendly face that's shaking your hand and kissing your baby. Hasbro and their decisions, and Wizards of the Coast with their decisions the higher-ups are making, that's the hand that's going to be in your pocket stealing your wallet, stealing your joy, stealing your fun, yucking your yum, if you will, as certain people that I do have the utmost amount of respect for say. Going off of Gavin's Pauper experience, he runs Pauper for the company, and he did something very similar with the Pauper format for now what is the new Commander format panel. I'm just going over some of the top hits here. They're going to be talking a whole bunch. Every week they have a Discord that they all talk in person. They also have no real sway with Wizards of the Coast, and they are also paid employees of Wizards of the Coast. So, whereas before the RC was an unpaid job, you could say, oh, sucker, but that means that they are unbiased and they can kind of do whatever they want, even if it was banning 4 cards in the same day. And let's be honest, some of them needed to be banned. Mana Crypt didn't deserve it, though. That's the hill I will die on. Mana Crypt did not deserve to be banned. Jeweled Lotus should have never been made. That's from Gavin Verhey's mouth. That's the head of R&D. Dockside Extortionist could have been printed differently. There could have been something that they could have printed. Some other line of text that could have fixed that card. Nadu deserves to burn. Burn every single copy of Nadu you have. That card is theoretically worthless now, and it's just a bad play experience, and it's another R&D design mistake. But once again, as I said, Jeweled Lotus was told, Josh Lee Kwai and others had said, do not print this card. This card is a mistake for Commander. And Wizards kind of said, all right, we won't listen to you. We'll print it anyway. We know what's best for the format. The same people that did that now control the format. 17 people to start. They can rotate once a year, so there will be rotation, which means no consistency, which means people can float in and out. Like, you can be on this Commander format panel for a couple of years and then take a year or two off to be replaced by somebody else to get back onto the panel. So there's going to be no consistency, no flow, I think it's too much movement per year. Like, doing it per year, I think it's way too much movement. They say it's because they want to get as many ideas in as possible and different views and opinions. That's why there was 5 people in the rules committee and then a bunch of people in the CAG. Now, RC didn't listen to the CAG, so we got where we are at right now. They have shelved the bracket system. The bracket system's on hold. Thank goodness. It should just be thrown in the garbage can where it belongs, to be honest with you. This idea of the bracket system should never have been presented. Somebody should have told somebody to not say the bracket system, to not even mention the bracket system, to not even say we haven't even fully realized the idea yet of what this bracket system could be. This is the first idea. It's a first draft. I wrote in my notes, it's akin to BSing your way through a verbal homework assignment because you only had the first sentence written. You only had the first sentence done, and now you got to talk your way out of it for the next 2 minutes. That's what the bracket system seemed like to me. They also have said that there's not going to be any more bannings. We're not going to do anything rash, but expect something in the next year. They're holding off the brackets until next year until they can talk about it. Here's my bold prediction. Next year is going to be starting in January. Okay. They're going to kick things off in Commander with an explosion of information. Whether it be the new bracket system, tier system idea that they're floating around. They're going to have that resolved. They're going to unban a few cards. My prediction is Mana Crypt is getting unbanned. Mana Crypt died because of Joel Lotus's sins. Simply put. Dockside and Joel Lotus stay banned. Joel Lotus specifically because Gavin Verhey, the head of research and development, has said this was a mistake. Joel Lotus was a mistake. The card isn't coming back, but Mana Crypt will. Dockside Extortionist is still going to stay banned because let's not undo everything the RC, the former rules committee, got basically fired for lack of a better term. And I hate the fact that I said that, but basically they had to let go of their baby because of this decision. Let's not unban every half of those cards. After you said some of them have been design mistakes, have been mistakes that we never should have made. Mana Crypt isn't a mistake. It's one of the OG cards. It's barely legal in Legacy and Vintage. So I think it comes back. I think a couple other cards on that list come back. I don't want Coalition Victory coming back, even though I think Coalition Victory might be one of those cards that are coming back. But you'll see that. You'll see a wave. You'll see the first unbannings happen next year. You'll see the new format system going forward. And then you're going to hear nothing for about 8 months. But to most Commander players, it's going to be earth-shattering news because it's going to hit hard and fast. There might even be another specific announcement coming at some point within the first few months between January and March. I feel there's going to be numerous, 3-ish announcements, at least, at max. Maximum 3-ish announcements. 2 of them is the bracket system. The other one is going to be the unbannings. And then who knows? They might throw a third one in there just to say, look, we are taking this seriously. And then you're going to hear nothing until November, December of next year. That's what I feel. And now we get to meet the panel. Attack on Cardboard is from Australia. I've never heard of them. So I'm reading up on them right now. They're a judge, which is good. Also teaches people through his channel. Okay, cool. Just from this base few sentences, introductory, I agree with Attack on Cardboard. Bandit is Europe, France specifically. So it, once again, wanted a broad range of not just people, but of people in certain locations. He felt the Commander Rules Committee and CAG were too American-centric, which I understand. It's a global game, even though they said that the Magic Cons next year are only in America. Anyway, Benjamin Wheeler from Loading Ready Run. I agree with Wheeler being on here. Charlotte Stable is Finland-based. A longtime judge for Magic. Hey, I like judges being in this particular program. Judges have to kind of know everything about the game, and they are, and let's be honest, if you don't know, Commander was created by a bunch of bored judges.
Correction. Two people somewhat combined efforts. One wrote an article in the Duelist with a format that was created, Elder Dragon Legend Wars, by Jesus M. Lopez. It was radically different than what Elder Dragon Highlander is now. But around the same time, apparently, somebody named Adam Stanley in Alaska had refined the format and turned it into what is more traditionally known and seen as Elder Dragon Highlander. In 2004, and a little bit before that, is when Sheldon Menery, a level 5 Magic judge, exposed EDH to everybody in a 2004 article. And the biggest addition that Menery did to this refining of the Alaskan group was changing it from just the 4 Elder Dragons, which is why it's called EDH in some circles still, to anything that has a legendary creature. The more you know. I think that's correct. Power Dragon, Daquan Watson. I agree with this. I love Power Dragon's channel. He is amazing teacher and also an amazing voice in Magic. Deco is the newest member of the panel. He is their CEDH representative. I do not care about CEDH, but they're from Brazil. Has a channel on YouTube focusing on everything from casual to CEDH. So that is the CEDH that one of the CEDH players that Gavin wanted, I guess. Greg Sebilan is a U.S. Army officer of 19 years, stationed in Republic of Korea. The Painter Servant on Twitch, Alliance of Military Magic creator, co-founder, I mean. And he was recommended by Sheldon Menery. So, all right, I can agree with that one. It's you. I'm probably saying that name wrong. I apologize. Content creator for Herayu. I used to be able to say this name right too because they kind of were the progenitors of the Pioneer format when it was called something different. Herayu, a big store in Japan. They are the people that kind of came up with the base version of Pioneer. I forgot what it was called, but I was super excited when I first heard that. So Commander Summit series, they were running Commander stuff, like big Commander tournaments. Josh Lee Kwai game nights, sellout. I said it. I'll tell you why. I have a lot of respect for Josh Lee Kwai. He, one of the people that got me into Commander, did a podcast that kind of, he laid his soul out, man. He laid himself out bare to the world. Hey, this is why I left. This is why they weren't listening to me. They kind of, the RC kind of did something stupid that they were told not to do. This, that, the other thing. Less than a week later, did a podcast with the professor, Tolarian Community College, where basically he was getting kind of run down for the podcast he said before. And he took back a lot of what he said. And at first I was like, this is the biggest tuck my tail between my legs I've ever seen. Then it came out that Wizards of the Coast is demanding these people that are part of the new rules committee to sign a forever non-disparaging clause agreement.
They can't talk about Wizards anymore. They can't talk bad about Wizards of the Coast anymore, or the Rules Committee, or the Commander Format Panel, or anything. Do you see the timing of this? He quit the CAG because he wasn't listened to, then had a very raw emotion. Very raw. I did. He just speaks more eloquently than I do, especially when it came to this, and said why he had the opinions and reasons why he thought that this was a bad idea, that the Rules Committee shouldn't have done this, shouldn't have done that. This is what I would have done. This is what they should have done. And then a week later, backpedals on it and basically gets dragged through the dirt a little bit, and they have to bring poor Prof in as like a buffer. I could tell that immediately 10 minutes into the podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a reason why they brought Prof in as like a buffer, and I felt bad for Prof on that one. Then a week after, like less than a week after that, a week after that, the forever don't talk crap about Wizards clause came out. So you could put the red lines through everything and say, okay, yeah, everything makes sense now. He did that podcast and then signed the agreement and then was told by Papa Hasbro and Wizards, you better do a retraction. Because remember now, you're a paid person. So I still respect the person. And that's the thing. I still respect Josh Lee Kwai. I just think it was a really bad move on the backsies that he did. And you're allowed to have that raw emotion with your friends. If they're your real friends, they'll see that. I said it earlier, freedom defined is freedom denied. And when you don't have the freedom to talk bad about the company that you at the time weren't working for, and now that you have a paycheck for, because you're part of this committee, now you have to kind of go against everything you said before. It was bad, and now it seems even worse when I look back on it now. Josh Lee Kwai was made an example of to the rest of the people. I get that. I'm never going to be on game nights anyway, so I'm allowed to talk all this ish, not no swearing on this channel. Kristen Gregory is the next member of this panel, UK based, bulk commander format that was adopted for command fests in the United Kingdom. Limited person, okay. I dig Limited. It is my favorite format of all time. They are good at digging into systems, and that's what they need right now when it comes to this whatever bracket/tier system they're doing. Lewis Stardust, CDH player, so they have two CEDH players on the committee now. They make mention that they don't have any plans to run CEDH tournaments, but they want more perspectives. And Lewis Stardust is a CEDH player, a format I will never touch. But at least they were not lying to us about getting all voices heard here. Olivia Gobert Hicks, former RC member, super knowledgeable, also the person who was against the bans in the first place. Rachel Weeks from Game Nights, probably considered one of the greatest minds in Commander at living on the planet, according to a lot of people that they talk to. Rebel. Rebel is another. So they have 3 CEDH players on this format. Rebel has made a couple decks for Commander, for Professor at Tolarian Community College. Scott Larrabee is one of the founding fathers of Commander. He was one of the first Wizards to discover Commander in 2005 when it was being played after hours by judges, and one of the early Commander's rules. Okay, yeah, I didn't misspeak. He is an OG. So good on him. Tim Willoughby. So another UK-based person. They live in London. And Toby Elliott, former RC member, maintains the Magic tournament rules. Okay, yeah, another rules person. So I agree with almost everybody on the list. Sorry, their last few were kind of brushed along. My opinions of Josh Lee Kwai kind of got in the way. But, that being said, I still respect the person, and they can totally disrespect in a respectful way the opinions I have of them. But that's how I feel. But what do I think about the 17-member board? I like it. I like the people on there. They have no power. They specifically say in that column to make dang sure to let you know they have an opinion. They can share the opinion, but research and R&D of Wizards and Wizards of the Coast has final say in everything. So we'll see about that. But I think the first thing they do is one of the cards, Mana Crypt, getting unbanned. That's about it. It's been an interesting podcast. Thank you for watching at home. Check me out here every week, Wednesdays, I think, at 2 or Thursdays. I'm trying to decide on a good date because not only will we be doing this podcast, but in the future, I'm going to be doing gameplay for Arena as well. My name has been Dom Douglas, the back-to-back commentator of the year as of this moment for XWW, and may your top deck always be mythic.